Hello.
Good evening and welcome. The October 15th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Education of Wheeling Community Consolidated School District 21 is now called to order. Secretary McAtee, would you check for quorum, please?
Phil,
Aye.
Stacy Allen,
Yes.
myself, yes. Arlen,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
and Jessica.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I see we have a single public member. Welcome. Did you have a public comment? Good. Okay. There'll be another time that you could if you would like as well. May I please have a motion to move into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body, our legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Sorry.
Bill,
Aye.
Jessica,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes. You gotta say
myself,
aye.
yes. Phil,
Aye.
Arlen,
Aye.
and Stacy.
Yes.
Now that we are in closed session, I would ask any members of the public and non-essential staff to please find another location for a few Board of Education, October 15th meeting is now been called back to order after a closed session. Would everybody please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If there's anybody, any of our public members that are here this evening that wish to address the board during our public comment session, if you would please fill out a form and turn it into Ms. Del Rio over here. She'll pass it along to the chair at the appropriate time. Okay, next is board communication. Let me start with some recognition, please. Illinois Association of School Boards would like to recognize Stacy Allen, who's achieved level 2 of her Master School Board. Arlen S. Gould, who's become a Leadership Fellow. Congratulations. And you've maintained your Master Board member status. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bill Harrison has also maintained Master Board member status. Deborah McAtee being recognized also as a Leadership Fellow. Congratulations, Deborah, as well as maintaining your Master Board member. And I myself, I'm recognizing myself also as maintaining my Master Board. There we go. We're not on TV, are we? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Kind
actually
of.
we are.
Bill,
I know. Yes,
did they
Bill.
make you aware as to how many districts? We have 3 fellows, leadership fellows on their board at one time. That seems rather rare.
I don't know.
Fancy.
Probably not many.
Actually, we're 4. You've got yours too.
I'm
right?
not a fellow.
You're not a fellow? Okay.
Well, I'm a fellow, but I'm not.
Yeah.
a
a leadership
leadership.
He's a
fellow.
jolly good fellow, too.
Moving along, we are now
Thank
going into our board member updates. NSSEO, Deb?
Not a real lot to report this month. We are still waiting for the grand opening for the playground because while you do not need a permit for a playground, you do for the sign for the playground. So they're waiting on the permit to get the sign to have the grand opening. So as soon as we know about that, I will let everyone
Yeah,
know.
we do.
It'll be a little chilly.
Okay. Moving on to EdRed and then to IASB. Bill?
EdRed's virtual kickoff luncheon was a success. State Comptroller Susanna Mendoza spoke to prioritizing school payments, and she also gave a shout out to a few districts in their efforts in assisting their communities during the COVID crisis. And in that, she first listed District 21.
Right.
For our efforts of getting hotspots out to promote virtual education. So Mike and Mike, well done. Watch for information to come about our annual legislative dinner, which will be virtual and obviously not a dinner. Sarah Hartwick is attempting to set it up with the ability for board members to interact with our legislators in breakout rooms. And also to have breakout sessions that can be viewed live or recorded. More information to come on that. And Jessica, I believe you have an update on the equity subcommittee.
Yes, I will also echo that the kickoff was outstanding. And it was great to hear from Controller Mendoza, not only because I think she's phenomenal, but because while she was presenting to us, her child was in the room doing distance learning. And having our elected officials going through the same thing many of us are going through really meant a lot to me as a parent and a board member. And I was grateful not only to have her for a few minutes, but to have her mention that this is something she's going through. The equity committee met yesterday and sort of went through a brief overview of what the 4 subcommittees are doing. The 2 subcommittees that I'm on had not met since our last board meeting here, so I don't have a particular update from them. But we did have a couple of representatives from Forecast 5 join the meeting, and in conjunction with Barrington High School District, gave a lengthy presentation of the enormous number of tools that they offer through Forecast 5, and that Barrington was able to show us exactly how they're using some of the tools, even like making up a couple of students so that they could show the different relationships of some of the data points that are available. And I mean, even getting down to students that were of underrepresented populations who'd been offered AP classes and decided not to take them. And so the district can actually narrow in on individual students and find out what's missing, what's needed to help those students achieve, higher levels of academics. I did have to leave the meeting early to take one of my children to school for in-person learning, so I didn't get to hear the entire presentation, but the first half hour I heard was just phenomenal. And I did let Sarah know that I really enjoyed the presentation and them coming to do that.
Very good. Any other comments on Edrad?
Okay.
Bill?
And then quickly on IASB, just a reminder of the upcoming North Cook virtual meeting, which is on the 28th, and the 2020 virtual summit, which is November 20th. You could either register yourself or contact Leticia and she could register you for them. And that's why for ISBA, unless you want to add anything, you did your honors thing already.
I'm sorry, Bill?
I said, unless you want to add anything to ISB, that's all I've got.
Nope. I did also have a chance to listen in for the first hour of the EdRed kickoff. I thought Susanna Mendel did a nice job. I was a little surprised at how short it was, however. I was expecting a little bit more of a robust conversation, but I was glad I had the opportunity to check in on that. Next is North Cook Intermediate Service Center update. Arlen, anything?
So I also sat in on that meeting with Bill and Phil, and it was interesting. I'm glad I did that. And by the way, our superintendent is featured on, is it the summit that I'm trying to remember now.
Actually, both.
Both,
So for the North Cook, I'm part of the panel that will
Right.
be presenting, and then the summit that is in November, we're kind of doing a modified version of the presentation that we were going to be giving at Triple I. So
Okay, great.
yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that. Two things, neither frankly on North Cook. One, I had one of my regular breakfasts with Senator Ann Gillespie and Representative Mark Walker. Brought them up to date. They had a lot of questions. They've had no phone calls, no negative phone calls about the job we're doing. And they did say, and I shared with Mike, that whenever we're ready, they would love to come see what it really looks like in the schools. And then the second thing I've got is a little bit of good news. So my daughter up in Milwaukee, Heidi, is pregnant with her third child. And she's due in February. So that's our big exciting news, because it came as a surprise for us, but not for them. And
That's good.
And that's all I've got.
That's good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Stacy, anything? Jess, anything else?
Nope.
Deb, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. We'll move into staff communications, and Dr. Conley, you have several things for us?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to give some brief updates on these topics. As the board knows, we have transitioned back into our in-person learning option for our students whose families have elected to take advantage of that. And so I just wanted to point out that I did ask principals to give us some feedback, and they wrote some nice responses, and that's part of your board packet. That's actually also part of the public packet. Leticia, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody can see what they wrote, and I think if you had a chance to take a look at it,
I did.
it's been very positive. We've I think first of all, everybody has been very, very, very happy to see kids back in our classrooms,
Yeah.
as different as it is. But as I suspected, our kids they're doing fine. They're following along with the process, and we're not seeing major issues with kids' stamina in terms of being able to keep their masks on and things of that nature. We've had our normal little bumps. This is a very different kind of transportation routing than we've ever done before. And so there's been, little hiccups here and there with some of the bus service. But if you think about it, nothing really more than what you would have at the beginning of any year,
Right.
particularly a normal year. And so I think by and large that has been pretty good. You know, the elephant in the room here is that the numbers are not going in the right direction. There has been a fairly worrisome increase, and particularly in the cases per 100,000 in our immediate area. The North Cook region is a little less so. You know, it's looking a little bit better. The thing to keep in mind, and this is something that we communicated to parents yesterday in a note that went home, is that, you know, that's not the only thing that we're looking at. And so, you know, while the cases per 100,000 are certainly going up, the testing positivity rate is going up, but it hasn't reached a critical level as of yet. And our internal data is still looking, you know, very strong. Now, that gets updated on a daily basis, and I will tell you that we do have, particularly on the east side of our district, we do have a higher incidence of close contact, where students are needing to, you know, quarantine because of close contact. But at this point, no school is really anywhere near that 3% kind of threshold where we would need to immediately shut down and go back to distance learning. But we're keeping an eye on it, because at some point, even if our internal data looks good, if we've got uncontrolled community spread, our internal data is not going to stay that way. And so it will be a point where it's going to be a judgment call to make, but I don't see that as being imminent. But it's, you know, I'm nervous, point blank, I'm nervous. But we're gonna keep, you know, keep our eyes on it very intently.
That's
So-
student, how about staff?
So staff is also doing pretty well. If you see on our dashboard that we are updating, you know, we're seeing pretty typical absence rates, what we would normally see in a year. So there's nothing that is outstandingly worrisome. You know, we have had a couple of cases where some of our staff have had close contacts in their own lives, and so they've had to quarantine. But they're also then working, you know, they're working remotely. So it's not as if they're not able to work. So, you know, we've been able to pretty well manage those situations.
Is there, among your colleagues here in the northwest suburbs with the Illinois new case hitting above 4,000 for the first time ever?
Yeah.
Are we starting to feel or get some feeling of perhaps retrenchment?
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't speak with my colleagues today, but we did, you know, we meet on Tuesday virtually, and there's a level of fear. I will tell you, I think that for, you know, the fact that we've already transitioned in, it's maybe, you know, that for folks that haven't transitioned back, they're now taking a look at, are we going to be able to transition back?
Yeah.
Now that we're in, however, and we've got some action, you know, some internal data that keeps us, you know, being able to kind of take a look at a full set of facts, you know, that I think that helps somewhat. But I will tell you that, you know, some of the districts that have already, you know, moved back in, their experience is very much like ours, where we're seeing, you know, we're not seeing a you know, huge issue with you know, COVID, you know, certainly infections, but or exposures and things of that nature. One of the things that I did want to make note of is that we are, as a district, moving to secure a number of COVID tests. Now, originally, we were going to be trying to secure a supply of the antigen tests. That's that rapid test. As of actually a conversation that we had today, the Cook County Health Department is kind of souring on those. As a matter of fact, what they've said is, you know, if you get a negative result on one of the antigen tests, you're going to have to go and do a I think they call it a PCR test, you know, in order to confirm that. So in our conversation, we're like, well, then we're just going to get PCR tests, right? We're not even going to, you know, bother with, and the PCR tests are more expensive and they take a little bit longer, but it's, instead of having results in 45 minutes, it will take 3 days, but it's still better than having to have our people go and we're just talking about employees at this point, having our people go and get tested independently and then may not have those results back for 7 days. We are, and the FDA has already approved the PCR tests, so, and they have them, the lab that we're working with does have them in supply, so we'll be able to get those more quickly than the antigen tests that we would have had. I think when we, because we'll have access to those for our employees, that will help in being able to, if they're positive, then we know, but if they're negative, having that negative test as being a way to bring them back more quickly than the 10 days that they would need to spend quarantining. So,
Okay.
When you test them, will they go home for the 2 days until the results come back?
yes,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, there's no way, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And for right now, the testing that the state of Illinois does is faster at their sites, especially in Waukegan and around the school. Those results do come back much quicker than anybody else's. I have to send people for COVID tests 3 or 4 times a week at least.
Yeah.
So the state testing sites, the ones in Waukegan and around where the drive-through tests, they are 2 days for results back and very reliable. So
Good.
in the
Yeah,
meantime, I would use those hands down over anything else.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and I'm hoping that it's able to stay that way, as depending on where we go, that, yeah, exactly. But that's why we wanted to have a supply of our
Yeah,
own,
all of us in
to be able
healthcare
to
feel
go.
the same way.
Yeah, so.
As I look on the wall behind you, I see that the next item may have something to do with our strategic plan update.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to make sure that we at least spent a couple minutes kind of refocusing on the fact that, you did approve a strategic plan last year, and that we actually haven't forgotten about it. And it seems like everything is
Oh,
all
right.
COVID all the time, and that's not absolutely untrue. But I also did want to kind of circle back in that it is October, and one of the things that we talked about was kind of on a quarterly basis to be able to give some updates about where we are with the strategic plan, that we honored that. And so first of all, if you kind of, obviously taking a look around you, I really want to thank the operations team for giving this boardroom a fantastic facelift. This was all done in-house. And very economically. And they've done an amazing job. I think it is a much brighter and a much more professional looking, space. And I'm very, very, I hope, you agree and very pleased. The kind of the signage that you see in the room and other areas around the district is something that Cara has been working on. And it's really that concept of, we have our mission, we have our priorities. And so it is important in the spaces in which we are working. And this is a major hub. It's not just the boardroom. There's committee meetings, there's, planning meetings, there's trainings, things of that nature that's happened in this space, is to be able to have those examples and those reminders of what it is we're focused on. So I'm very, very, I was very happy with how it turned out.
Great. Yeah.
And I will note that Cara had, planned for those in her last year's budget. So, these are, we had planned all along as part of the strategic planning process to acquire these things. And I think they just look great. So, but to outside of the cosmetic piece, I just want to point out that there are a number of things that we have done since the approval of the strategic plan that in many ways were accelerated because of COVID. There were some things that we, that really aligned with many of the goals and the priorities, particularly in terms of use of data to drive decision-making, to make sure that we had systems in place to support the use of quality assessment and data, and to provide more opportunities for teachers to have access to those things. And with COVID having come through and the need to really completely rethink what we were doing, there was a lot of coordinating need to bring those systems in line, online more quickly. And so in some ways, if there is any kind of silver lining, from a systems perspective, we made jumps very quickly because of necessity. But those things that we did. So for example, bringing in our Performance Matters, suite, Schoology, which is still, being activated and over time, teachers will be able to continue to use that more and understand it more. But but the other systems that we've brought in, some of the reorganization we did administratively with the adding the dedicated director of assessment and accountability position. All of these things are tied to priorities of the strategic plan. And so there are many things that, and in fact, right now, what Beatrice is working to do is kind of recapture. So those things that we've done, kind of recapture and catalog. So within our Invisio project management system, to kind of make sure that we're saying, we did these, we did them sooner, but they're still directly related to the strategic plan. So for the board, this isn't a public document, but for the board, I did share a link where you can kind of see a spreadsheet of the different things that we have, going. So while it feels like COVID all time, we are actually still working to keep a broader view of the work that we need to do. Any questions on that?
No, can I just a quick comment, Phil, if I could? I'm in a unique position. I've got 2 grandkids coming to school at our house twice a week. They're in a different district, but I see the differences between the kindergartner and the 3rd grader. I see the struggle the kindergartner is having with adapting, but I also see the incredible patience that the teachers are using to nurture the kids along. And that's what I've heard from parents as I walk in my neighborhood. That's what I've read as you have, Bill, if you looked at the parent site. Just constant, tremendous praise for our teachers. And so I just felt, once again, I wanted to say that because I know it's true. I see it every week. And I hear it from my neighbors just praising the job our teachers are doing. So I just wanted to share that with everybody and be sure that goes back to our team because we really mean it and we really feel it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan. Well said. Any other question, Deb?
I just want
Comments?
to make a comment, very much like Arlen. The high school started back today, in-person learning, and my youngest fortunately was in the first group. So we went today, and normally they don't do open campus for freshmen and sophomores first semester, but because of everything, it's like, okay, we're going to get the kids out of there at lunchtime so they can eat and not have to take their masks off in the crowded lunchroom. So I picked them up, and as I was dropping them back off afterwards, they looked at me and said, I really appreciate how much work these teachers have done to not just keep us engaged, but also the kids that are online. And the fact that a 15-year-old was able to see that, I wanted to make sure that the teachers knew that the kids might not say it, but a lot of times they do understand. So on behalf of my child and all the other students, I want to say thank you to all the teachers too.
Thank you, Deb. Any other comments or questions regarding the strategic plan update?
Good
Okay.
job on the strategic plan, Mike. We didn't touch on that.
The next item Dr. Conley is going to update us on is one that's very important to all of us sitting at this table, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And that's the update on the new committee dealing with just, equal, and equitable society. So where are we?
Again, a major priority of the strategic plan to really be, focused on, the equity and the access to programming and that all of our students rightly deserve. Where we are is that Beatrice and I have been working, very closely on this, and we are going to be teaming up with Dr. Yvette Dubiel, who is currently the Executive Director for Equity and Public Professional Learning for the DuPage County ROE. Prior to Yvette moving over to the DuPage County ROE, she was the equity officer for Indian Prairie 204. And I have worked with Yvette in a couple of different ways. She has provided, she has just an outstanding administrators academy on equity in education that I have taken. I brought her in to be a keynote for Superintendent's Roundtable, of which I was president of last year. And she's really just fantastic in terms of her ability to help people who maybe that's not their lens, understand what equity is and kind of all of the things that kind of go into that. And so we are going to be working with her, and starting in January, we're going to be formulating really now two committees. There's going to be the superintendent's committee that will include the board representation as well as community members, parents, staff. And then there will be a strictly staff internal committee that will also be formed and will be working parallel. And the reason for that is that the process that Dr. Dubio is going to be taking us through is going to be very intensely focused on student data. And not scrubbed of identity data. I mean, like really down into the mechanics of the data. So to be able to have a strictly staff group working with that data, while also having a more kind of community, kind of broader based group that certainly is getting information and insight from the intensive review of data at the staff level, but that then also is able to drive some good discussions to help set policy and to kind of position the district in terms of more broad priorities that they will take. So to start off in the kind of the first phase, we're going to start off with some professional development for both committees. And so really kind of getting into that, Equity 101, followed by Beatrice, what's the second session that we're going to be doing with her? Just flew right out of my head. I looked at it this morning. Yeah, it's okay. I just put you on the spot. So, yes, implicit bias. Right. So, the kind of Equity 101 followed by a session on implicit bias, and from there, then we begin to build into some more of the directional work of the groups. I think it's very important for us to have some baseline professional development before we start to dive into what can be very difficult and emotional conversations. So we're very excited that Dr. Rubio was available. We're very excited that Dr. Russetti is willing to let us, steal her from DuPage County for a little while. And she works with North Cook. She is, she provides that administrator academy with through North Cook as well. But she's it's great to be able to have her as a resource. So that's where we are. We're not ready at the moment to bring people together, but we do have the timeline and the dates that will kick up in January to be able to start doing that work.
I would hope that we'll be communicating our timeline out into the general community, general District 21 community, so that there's not a feeling that, well, we introduced this very publicly and very broadly a couple months ago, and now it's been a few months and nothing discernible has happened.
Yeah,
so.
the plan on that is for our next e-newsletter,
Good.
that's going to, we'll be including an article about that in the next newsletter. So.
I'm sorry, Phil, what was the article about? I couldn't hear you.
No, what I'm saying is that we are going to, in our next e-newsletter that we're sending out, we're going to write an article about what we're doing,
Okay.
so that our parents and our community can see that. Yeah.
Did you have
So,
a comment?
Two
or
questions.
question?
One, where does the Women's League fit in to all of this? I didn't hear you mention them. We have an agreement with them. They're going to work with us, right?
Right. I mean, that is something that we're going to need to explore. And so certainly when we form the actual kind of community committee. I'll be circling back to speak with Heidi and kind of get a sense of what their interest level is in playing a role in, as community, members in those discussions. The other thing is that right now, one of the things that we're working with them on is the mock election
Yeah, I knew
materials.
that. That's great, yeah.
So it's
We're working with them.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of this is still, it needs to come together, right? So as we come together, it'll be more clear where the synergy is from, different organizations that may be interested in doing them. Because it doesn't necessarily just mean them, it also, we
Right.
may have some of our faith communities that might be interested in being part of these conversations and things of that nature, so.
Is there a second question, Al?
Yeah, so well, the second thing that I wanted to mention was, there's been a lot of talk about institutional racism. And it's been raised that whether the way we teach history needs to be adjusted to take that into account. And the example that I like to use is that, and I remember hearing this long time ago, but after World War II, when these massive developments like Levittown were being built,
Mhm.
in the deeds were actually clauses
Yes.
that said you could not sell to a black family.
Yes.
Who learns that? Who hears that? I mean, that kind of stuff somewhere at some point
Mhm.
needs to be worked into in my opinion, into our curriculums,
Mhm.
because it's vital that young people know what our real history has been.
Yep.
Now, I think we've made great strides and we're doing a lot of great things. But nonetheless, we got to recognize what our failures have been historically as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, and there's a connection to what you're saying there and to the conversations that Ed Red is having
Right.
at the state, with the
Representative Ford.
Representative Ford and the Black Caucus in the House and others, so there is a conversation that is beginning to form around, that very thing, so.
Okay.
And by the way, one of the things that I should, really kind of highlight is that the work that Dr. Dubio will be doing with us is certainly looking at data from the perspective of, really identifying where our achievement gaps exist, where our, and understanding that, but then also beginning to do that deep dive into curriculum. And so, what, are there things within our own curriculum that we need to be really looking to make it more culturally relevant to be able to meet the needs of students coming from diverse cultural backgrounds and so that's part of the work as well.
Great.
I just want to make sure we're not jumping headlong into the curriculum aspect of that discussion before we're truly ready as a community to do so, however.
Agreed. Yeah, and that is not a first thing to do. Yeah, there's a lot more to there's baselines that people need to get to before you can start to have those honest conversations about curriculum.
Exactly.
And Phil,
Anybody on this side? Bill?
And to your point, Phil, I think it would be premature anyway, given what's going on down in Springfield, as Mike was saying.
Yeah.
Our guidance is likely to be changing over the next few years. Dr. Connolly, just a quick question. I'm going to pronounce Dr. DeVoe?
UBL.
Dubiel.
Mhm.
Could you provide any link or whatever in an email to us so we could read some of her work or whatever?
Sure.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Very good. Mike, thank you. Appreciate those 3 updates.
Absolutely.
Now move into board discussion. We have 2 items tonight. The first is the Delegate Assembly of IASB. Debbie, how would you like to approach that?
Well, I did get some questions from Jessica back, and I have registered for both of the discussion sessions that only the delegates can be involved in. It will be available for anyone to watch if they wish to
Good.
watch them afterward, the fact. I don't know who has had a chance to go through everything, whether they agree or disagree with the resolutions. Because I've got The first one. Oh, wrong spot.
Did you have any disagreements with the
Nobody has
recommendations?
said that they disagreed,
Okay,
at least not, not so far. I don't know if everybody has gone through them. So unless anybody disagrees, if I hear anything by next month, I'll just be voting along with the way the resolutions committee suggested.
okay. Anybody have a question or issue on those? Bill?
Not so much a question or issue, because I do agree with supporting the IASB positions at this point. But it's always interesting to see that there's another gun resolution on the list. And just to keep in mind that last year we worked together with a downstate district
Mhm.
and what was then known as Resolution 3. And I hope that we could continue cooperating in that kind of manner. It would be hard to whipsaw them and then not support the IASB position right now.
Mhm.
So as much as I think gun storage is a very serious issue, I do agree with the IASB position that it's not our issue as an
Exactly,
association.
correct.
That's the
That
gun
was
storage issue?
the gun storage issue, yes.
Okay. All right, everybody good? We'll move on to to our next board discussion item. This is a question that Arlen brought to my attention that agreed to put on for general discussion, not necessarily coming to a decision tonight, but to have a discussion, which is what this part of our agenda is for. So Arlen, I'll let you lead into it and we'll go from there.
So the derivation of this is that, as you all know, when Bill was out, we allowed parents to call in, as Bill did, when we were having our meeting. So people could queue up. I think at one meeting we had 11 questions, something like that, rings a bell. And so parents were able to do that. And then at the last meeting, or I think it was last meeting, but Bill you've been back for 2 now, I think, right?
That's correct.
But we pulled that back so parents could no longer call in. And it seemed to me, as I thought about this, that we've done such a great job, I believe, in terms of transparency, being out there, listening to parents, listening to the community, compared to certain other districts who will go unnamed, who've taken a great deal of heat for not doing that. I felt like we should consider at least resuming allowing parents to call in with a comment or concern, as opposed to simply writing them in advance of a meeting. The way we've got it now on the agenda is that you can speak at comments in the front end of the meeting, but you can also speak when we're talking about an agenda item later in the meeting, as I recall it. Is that not right?
No,
No.
we just have one
we
public
not in the
comment
past
section.
allow people to speak during a specific agenda item?
Not unless it was part of a workshop or
So
a public hearing.
one of the things that we have done is we have relocated public comment. If we had a specific presentation or, that we were giving information, we did move public comment to after that point.
Right.
But we have not had, when we're coming up on individual items, having additional public comment periods. That has not been the case.
It wasn't duplicate. It was moving it from
Yeah.
the beginning to wherever that time.
Now, we did have a couple of public hearings because of
Right.
and so there's always, a public hearing has its own public comment period. So
Right,
that
right,
that did
like a
happen.
workshop,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
So it's my feeling that we should look at that. Now, Bill raised a thought earlier today that maybe we should move this back to
I've got
the
the policy, I've got some comments,
policy
I'll add that for you
committee
later.
to have look at legal aspects and whatever other aspects there are. But I think in this day and age, when we really don't want 50 parents here to try to get into a meeting over an issue, I don't think we do, Phil. You're shaking your head, but I don't think we do. For a whole bunch of obvious reasons, giving the parents an opportunity to communicate with us that way would be something I'd like us to take a hard look at.
Okay. Are there Other board reactions, Bill?
Arlen, you and I have talked about this a couple of times now. I agree that there's a question. Right now, we're not encouraging people to come in for obvious reasons. There's the ability for it, but it is somewhat limited. But this is not something between the videoing of our meeting and the broadcasting of it and this is not something I think we should rush into before we look at all the different policy implications. Quickly after we spoke today, I was able to just quickly think of 4 things to consider before going. Would we be able to limit this policy, for example, solely to the period of the governor's declaration of emergency? Would the board president be able to limit the time frame of the individual comment or the comment period of it itself? Could we require that commenters fully identify themselves and be available via video so we could actually see who they are just as we would if they were here? And are there other policy issues to be considered? I went and looked at our policy manual after we spoke, and it's questionable as to the extent that a president can control the meeting. It appears he could limit by our current policy the time an individual speaks, but may not be able to limit the entire time of board of public comment. I'm sure everybody else here, if they spend some time thinking about it, could come up with even more questions than that. So what I would suggest is that we submit any questions we have that might be necessary for either Mike to look at or also legal counsel to look at. Submit them to Mike and then have Mike bring it to the policy committee first. So we can go over the policies that may or may not need to be changed if we decide to go forward with this, and then bring it to the board. In the meantime, we do have the procedure where people could submit comments. And remember, they're comments only. We don't go back and forth with questions. And those do get added, as we received one here earlier, to the public record. So it will be there. And that's
Didn't
there
get it.
for the right now.
Right there.
I think it's right in front of your computer, Arlen.
Oh.
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with where you're coming from, but I just think we need to take this through a proper course of action, if for no other reason to make sure there's no other unintended consequences out there.
Understood. And
Thanks.
go ahead.
Let me go around. Just as a point of, I'm not sure if it's order or what it is, but a couple months ago, in preparation for some of our virtual conversations in addition, I did have the opportunity to check with the district's legal counsel, Lynn Himes, and he said that a president can identify not only the amount of time per speaker, but the amount of time for the entire public comment section. So we do have the ability to do that.
Good.
Jess, did you have any comments or reactions?
Very briefly, I mean, I'm glad you raised this issue. You know that I've always been a supporter of accessibility and transparency to the board. And I do understand the limitations we have now, where we, frankly, for people's safety, we don't want to appear discouraging people to attend, but, we certainly don't want, overflow for safety purposes. As a parent of young children, I can also echo that there are probably a lot of people who are interested in what we're doing, but simply can't attend because they have other responsibilities, or perhaps they work in the evenings after they've done, family obligations during the day. I also really like that we put the link to our simulcast in our agenda. I know there are other districts that make it, frankly, very difficult to find the accessibility of their meetings, even when we were all doing them remotely. But to Bill's point, I think this warrants further discussion, not only from a legal aspect, but for a reality check of what we want to do as a board transparently. And I think the policy committee would be a great place to have that discussion. I know our existing policies allow for a significant amount of conversation with the board, with the superintendent. Certainly, public comments can be submitted to us that we get to read and are part of the record already. So there are certainly avenues that exist already for people to make comments to us, even not appearing in person or virtually. But I would like the policy committee to take this up in more detail, perhaps after we've had an opportunity to pose questions and get some more information back from council.
Okay, I'm gonna go around the horn. Stacy?
So I had the opportunity to speak with Arlen, with Dr. Conley, and with Phil about this. So what happens is, and I'm going to take this off because I can't even hear myself. What happens is there's a lot lost in electronics. There's a lot lost when you're behind a screen making commentary. There are security concerns, which I think we've seen in a couple of meetings where, thanks to Mr. Frantini's quick pause button, we were able to get control out of what was potentially an out of control situation electronically 3 meetings ago, when we opened it up and allowed people to post comment as well as making comment. So I would have some security concerns on how much we could control what goes on. And there is a certain amount of freedom when you are behind a screen and can't be seen on what you're going to say and what you're going to do, as opposed to standing here in front of a group of people. I think it should be looked at additionally. But what happens is things are lost in the message. It's like talking to somebody versus trying to have a very serious conversation over text message. It never goes well. And when we start to banter back and forth and we start to respond to the people that are commenting, we tend to get off track, off message, and what we started talking about tends to get lost in the shuffle. So I would encourage some more research amongst your cabinet on how to do it in a way. I think we are extremely transparent. I think we are extremely accessible. I think that we all go out of our way to make sure that the public knows. I think it's great that we are, people are able to watch this via YouTube, via their a link on there. But I think that we are doing everything that we can. I think if we are considering doing something like that, I think we need to have some structure and some policies and procedures in place to do that. But I am very comfortable right now knowing that the public, I read the public comment that comes in front of me via the piece of paper. It doesn't mean any less to me because I get it via a piece of paper and it gets entered into the record, than it would if somebody was standing in front of me giving that. In some ways it means more. I can read it a couple of times and understand what they're saying, and then your staff has the ability to act on it extremely quickly. So I would encourage some additional research and discussion, but I do have some security concerns that I'd like to see your cabinet address.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing this, when we were remote and when it was just Bill remotely, we were using Zoom, which means everybody got onto the same format and that was easier for them to comment. Now that we're doing YouTube, they are just watching it. They don't have any way to interact with us during the meeting. So we'd have to go back to a Zoom platform or something like that, I would presume. However, the question I do have now is, because a lot of times people that would come, they might have a question in the middle of the meeting. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. So we wouldn't have it from in advance. They could right now put something on the Facebook page. I mean, like literally right now, and Kara would get it, correct? And would that come out now?
Yeah.
So that she would mention that during public comments.
Yes, so if there were comments that came in after the start of the meeting, but before the comment period, was that either Letitia or Cara would note that those came in, yeah.
Okay, so we would definitely hear, so it's
Yep.
where people can be sort of live. I mean, it doesn't have to be thought out in advance. They can do something spur of the moment. But yeah, I mean, it is something that we would definitely have to, maybe we should look into, because none of the like the Village of Wheeling, theirs is just broadcast. If you want to talk, you've got to go to the meeting. They don't have anything interactive. So I can see both sides.
Okay, Debbie. Stacy?
I think that if this is something that is important to the public and offers greater transparency and connectivity with the public, we should find a way to make it work. I think we can. But I'm not opposed at all for it going to the policy committee and really trying to put some guardrails around. I hear the security concerns. I like the fact that people identify themselves either via email or in person. I think we need to keep that. But I think we can make it work.
Okay. Arlen, did you have anything else?
Yeah, so just one more side. So I bring this to you after watching the Village of Arlington Heights board meetings since the pandemic started, which they've all been on Zoom. There have been no issues whatsoever. People have been respectful. You may not think it, even though the issues are different than ours, but they get pretty heated. And there have been some very hot issues in front of the village board. It's worked extremely well. The village president opens it up for questions. People state their question and he controls it. There's never, not once, been a person who got out of line or he started yelling and screaming, and there have been some pretty hot topics. So I just say, along with what Stacy just said, I think there's a way for us to do it. We've really set standards in terms of what a school district should look like. I will tell you, there are other districts nearby who are modeling. There are board members modeling after where we've gone in this district in terms of communication, openness, transparency. And I just would like us to stay ahead of the curve. I recognize the issues that Dr. Conley has raised. I recognize those, but I'm confident that we could find a way to make it work.
Okay.
And I
Dr.
wouldn't use Zoom for anything.
I'm not suggesting.
No, I'm
otherwise.
just saying, when we talk about security concerns, I mean, there are some big ones with that platform, and we've already experienced them in one meeting. So that's when I talk about that, if we're gonna entertain any sort of discussion on doing that, then, I think that that electronic security has to be foremost.
Dr. Conley, I wanted to give you an opportunity to react to the issue as well, because it involves staff. So I appreciate, again, we're just in the consideration stage.
Yep.
What are the issues that you have with the proposal?
Well, first of all, let me start off by saying that this is a board decision. So from the staff perspective, whatever the decision of the board is what's going to happen, So having said that, what concerns I may have really have already been kind of addressed or have been brought up. I have concerns about the current policies and ensuring that if we are going to do this, that we adopt policy language that makes it very clear what your authority is as the board president to moderate a public comment period. That is very important in the event that anybody tries to challenge one of your meetings under the Open Meetings Act, that it is something that the public access counselor is able to see at the Attorney General's office, by the way, is able to see that we had very explicit, as you said, guardrails in policy that were being enforced, and it's not just at a whim of whomever the chair may have been at that point in time. As Stacy pointed out, I do have, I do believe that there is something to be said for, having the in-person interaction. I understand that this is a different, kind of environment right now, to where, it can be very much easier to be less than cordial or less than respectful, if you really have something that you're angry about, which I understand that happens at times, and you're behind a screen, right? And you're not facing the people that you're angry at as you're saying some words. So it is also a business meeting, right? And so several times the word asking questions has been said. That's not the purpose of public comment. And I am concerned that, and I understand it's been different times, that we have delved into having questions and answers in a public comment section, that is not the intent behind it. I think that there are mechanisms that this board can utilize to engage in questions, Q&A, and whether that be separate town hall kind of interactions or things of that nature. But this is a business meeting. And I do want to make sure that whatever this board decides to do, we make, that we are protecting the fact that you have business to conduct. And we want to make sure that you're able to do that in an effective and efficient manner. That said, I think that there are good points made. And I agree with what Stacy said, that there's a way, right? So if that is the decision that the board takes, let it be done. It will. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Couple things. What I'd like to do is have all 7 of us take the weekend, digest the comments that each other has made. Shoot me an email sometime next week or the next week or so. Let me know where you folks are in terms of recommending that we take it to the policy committee as the, I think, appropriate next step with this, because there's a lot of research that needs to be done from a legal point of view, what can and can't be done, shouldn't be done. The one thing that I would just say, just a quick echo what Dr. Connolly said, there is a difference between a meeting of the Board of Education that transacts the business of the district and an open workshop or public hearing. And we need not lose sight of that regardless of which way we go, if we open it up. I guess I'm a little bit old school in that I think you show up and put your best face forward in the, not in the physicality part of it, but I think you all know what I mean, in terms of putting your thought or comment across. I think it's, you look somebody face to face and you're able to get a better reading. But that said, one of the reasons why this has come up is because we are in the middle of a pandemic. And this is a way, we can only get 50 people in the space. Judging from my count, that means only about 20 or 21 non-district related, board related folks could be here at a time. Now, looking back at my 31 years plus, I can't remember more than probably a couple dozen times on a normal board meeting night with normal business that we even approach half that number of public folks, unless they're staff that are here representing their sites. That being said, the one thing I think I'd like everybody to consider, whether or not this is a short-term thing during the time that we still have this pandemic going on, once you allow yourself to broaden into the public sphere in this manner, it will be extremely difficult to remove that process, should we want to, or should a future board want to down the road. So as part of the, what I would think would be the policy committee's review of this, is that something that should be part and parcel of any change, that in times of health crises where we're limited in terms of personnel on site, whether that should be part of whatever we might recommend. Okay, so everybody just take it all, digest it in the next week or so. Let me know in the next couple weeks, and assuming that we're going to go down that path, I will relay this over to policy committee chair to set that session up. Good discussion, folks. Good discussion. Thank you very much.
Just one comment. I never intended to change us to a dialogue.
No.
I really, that was not my intent whatsoever.
Right, I understand,
And
absolutely.
as Jessica said, parents at home with kids, even at other times, might find it very convenient to be able to call in. So I never intended it to be a dialogue, which would be something different than what we do at our meetings.
Okay. All right, Bill?
And Phil, just if we do go down that path, if everybody could send in whatever questions that they have to Dr. Connolly to be addressed so that we could get this all done in a one-shot type thing. If there's a question you think that might need to be addressed by our attorneys, or you want Dr. Connolly to research, to send those questions in so that we are in a position to take everybody's concerns into account, that would be helpful.
Okay, point well made. And what a great segue. We are now into the public comment section of our agenda. The board will now receive public comment for up to 3 minutes. Such comment should not include discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of the appropriate school official. Letitia, is there anyone currently who has not filled out a comment card that would like to? Okay. Would you like to go home and then call it? No.
Cara, does seem that something came in.
Cara?
No, just to say that there's been one additional email from Mr. Kevin Keller.
Okay. And we did receive an email earlier this afternoon that Letitia has, and all of us have received in front of us, if you didn't read the email that was online. Okay? So with that, see no other public comments. Thank you, Cara. We'll move into the consent agenda. Does anybody need anything pulled? I think we were all here last month.
Mhm.
Okay. I should note that I did have some financial questions, billing questions that I did submit. I'm not quite sure that I got all the answers that I requested. Some of them were a little late, but nothing that was of any significant concern. We did have 2 FOIAs during the course of since the last meeting that were fairly standard, formulaic, nothing to know there. And there are no travel expenses this month for us to consider. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Arlen.
Second,
Thank you, Stacy. Debbie?
Okay, Phil,
Aye.
Arlen,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Jessica,
Yes.
Stacy,
yes.
and myself, yes.
Okay. We are now into new business. Item A, approval of a resolution, notice to remedy. Is that Bob or
You can just-
just move into
You
it?
could just move right into it. Yep.
Okay. This is a result of our closed session earlier. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Arlen. Debbie?
Arlen,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Jessica,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
myself, yes. Phil.
Aye. Thank you. Item B is approval of staff wellness program. Who is doing this?
Michael?
As you know, one of the things that the district has been looking at doing for a couple of years now is migrating from a staff-developed wellness program to one that is actually run by a professional organization that can do the things that the staff, in combination between the DEA and administration, cannot do on their own, just because of the sheer amount of time it takes to develop a true wellness program, work with different companies to offer incentives, and to do other things that really make an impact, such as wellness coaching, different screening processes, and the types of things we need to do to make sure that people that want to participate can do so and improve their health, which in turn makes for a happier workplace and overall lower insurance costs overall for everybody. So we went out and looked at 5 different companies, brought 3 finalists back. We feel very comfortable with Health Check 360, although Hub did a great job in assisting us in looking at those companies. There were 2 other very good programs, but we just feel Health Check 360 offers us the most for the money, as well as a mobile platform and app that we can go ahead and make available to all our staff members and staff members' spouses if they're so inclined to participate. So we recommend approval of this tonight.
Is there a financial consideration that you want to share with us at all on this, Michael?
Yes, the financial consideration was in that recommendation part of board docs. It's about $65,000 total. It's paid for from the reserves that we've built up in the insurance sub-fund. That's something that we want to start returning to our employees as we've built up a reserve that is now beyond what we need to insure the self-insurance fund. And it's something that I think also will benefit our employees greatly.
Do you know if Health Check 360 has signed on, or other districts use this particular?
There are 7 other districts in the area that use, within Illinois, that use Health Check 360, which makes it one of the larger pure education wellness programs in Illinois.
Is there any questions? Insurance professional?
I know in no way want this to be construed as I'm not supportive of that. I think it's a great idea. We have it in my company, people get into it and, the results are great. I was just wondering, given the extra cost to be a part of this program, is there any data out there that shows statistics on the reduction in, the benefit, the healthier the individual, the less cost. Is there any association with that? Can we expect to see a greater than $65,000 saving over a period of time?
Absolutely. The statistics out there, the data show that as people get involved, as they take more interest in their health, as they participate more in the biometric screenings, that overall health costs go down and go down significantly. We expect to see a return on this within a couple of years as people get involved. To give you an example, over the last 3 years, our biometric screening has only netted 173 people at the most in any year. And we have over 800 employees. So by offering incentives for the biometric screening, offering incentives for doing your basic physical and other things, makes people a healthier individual, a happier individual, as they're doing preemptive healthcare measures and proactive healthcare measures that will drive down their other costs. And there is a lot of literature out there. I can go ahead and pull some stuff if you want. But yes, we do expect to not only see a return just on the cost of the program, but to see an even more of a return that will impact our bottom line on the self-insurance.
If I can add, just from an anecdotal perspective, we brought a similar program, not Health Check 360, but a similar program in place in Keeneyville, where I was previously superintendent. And when we had an actual defined wellness program that was being supported by, an agency that does that, I can tell you that within 2 years, our insurance renewal banding had greatly improved. And when everybody else was seeing 10, 12% increases in their premiums, we were staying level or we saw a bit of a step down. And that's without any major significant changes to the overall plan, insurance plan that we were utilizing. We were not in a high, an HSA type of plan or anything like that. It was a pretty traditional Cadillac PPO. And so, to see that kind of leveling off of insurance increases, there's a lot of different factors, but certainly the wellness focus that we moved to supported that. So.
Arlen?
So obviously, we also know that physical well-being leads to mental well-being. And during this time of COVID, we know an awful lot of people are dealing with those kinds of issues as well. Is there a component in this for that?
Yes, there is actually a whole wellness coaching component to this. Monthly webinars, coaching services available. We can take this even deeper into different conditions to have counseling on if we so choose at a higher cost in future years. They're offering some of those services to us in the first year, but there is definitely a mental health component to it. And then in addition, we also have our EAP through One America as well.
Okay. And just an aside, we know that we have an agreement with the Wheeling Park District that our employees are employees within Wheeling if they register at the club. Now, of course, a lot of people aren't going to the clubs right now, I think because of issues. But Arlington Heights has offered that same program, and we need to negotiate it with them. But for some of our teachers, that could be a lot closer to where they live. So I'm just suggesting maybe we want to round that out.
Yeah, we're happy to reach out to Carrie.
And it's a great, the Arlington Park District program is a fabulous one also.
Yeah, and their new executive director, Carrie, actually was the executive director of the Park District in Bloomingdale, where I was superintendent. So, a portion of it. So I
He
fairly
probably
know her
doesn't
well.
know about it. We discussed it with board members
Mhm.
back when they had their open house, and
Yep.
they were very, very interested in doing it, so.
Well, I don't know that I've ever seen an Arlington Heights Park District member attend our meetings on a regular basis, however. Just
That's
kidding.
probably true.
Anybody on this side have a question on the issue?
No.
Bill?
Just quickly, will we see, I see the contract gives an automatic 1-year renewal. Will we be able to see a report on how it's being utilized by our employees?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, it's a 3-year initial
But
agreement.
The contract really calls for automatic renewal within it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just that we can see the report. I'm not worried about the term of the contract.
Okay. And Michael, I would like to see what Stacy had mentioned as far as the data.
Yes,
Whatever you can pull together, that would be great.
not a problem.
Okay? Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second,
Thank you both. Deb?
Stacy?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Jessica?
Yes.
Stacy?
yes.
Myself, yes. Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
The third item under our new business is the employee benefit insurance renewals for 2021.
So as you saw from the attachment, one of the things that we're happy to do again for the second year in a row is keep the not the high deductible plan, the consumer-driven health plan at the same rates as it has been. That program has been performing extremely well. We continue to see people migrating from PPO2 and PPO3 to the consumer-driven health plan. The rates for what used to be called PPO3, but now that PPO2 will no longer be in existence, it will just be the PPO plan. The plan is staying exactly the same. That plan has also performed well and rates have dropped for the year. Not something that you see terribly often, but I will tell you the staff and the individuals insured by our program have become extremely knowledgeable and effective users of their health insurance, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing rates going down. We have effective utilization and low usage of total deductible because people are doing their preemptive measures and taking their health care very seriously. So we are continuing with the healthcare strategy that was adopted during the last collective bargaining negotiations. And the only change to PPO3, which is now just PPO, is that deductible is going up, which was part of the negotiated plan. Otherwise, the deductibles in the CDHP are staying the same. All of our dental and vision are staying the same. And we are asking for you to approve that healthcare plan tonight.
Any questions for Michael on this issue? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the employee benefit insurance renewal effective January 2021.
So moved.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you.
Bill?
Aye.
Jessica?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
And Stacy?
Yes.
Item D, under new business, is authorizing disposal of property.
So
What school are we giving away?
we are not giving away, we're actually going
Good,
to
good.
sell property and personal property at that. So as the board knows, a number of years ago, a vehicle was purchased for use by the former superintendent. It was also used to make sure that any intra-district travel was gone ahead and it was utilized for that so that there was no mileage that needed to be paid out. The operations department has been replenishing its fleet of vehicles as they have become obsolete or too costly to repair. So we currently have a situation where we have one too many vehicles. We have a pickup truck that can still be used for plowing, so it's an extra vehicle. We also have the CRV. The CRV is not something that's being used by any of the administrative staff or other employees. And the only individual that's been using it is the director of operations. He can drive the pickup truck. We can sell the CRV for over what the Blue Book value was that was provided to us. So we are looking at taking this opportunity to go ahead and sell that, return that money into the general funds and put it to use for the students.
Anybody have a question or problem with us selling the CRV?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Jessica?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Me, yes. Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
The next meeting of the Board of Education will be November 12th, my brother's birthday. Also at 7 o'clock here. And let me just say that we got a lot accomplished tonight. Appreciate the health-related items, Michael and staff, and Dr. Conley, the updates on the items that you were reporting on. Good conversation tonight, good board discussion. Never ceases to amaze me what a even keel conversation level that this board maintains regardless of where we start on a given issue. So I appreciate that, colleagues, and everyone. The chair will at this point accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Phil,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
myself, yes. Arlen,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
and Jessica.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.